A simple woman, dressed in faded jeans and a plain white tee, entered the upscale showroom, her boots still dusted from the road. The place gleamed with polished marble floors and glass walls, housing a lineup of luxury vehicles. A sleek sports car immediately caught her eye. From across the room, a sharply dressed man gave her a slow once-over, his lips curling in subtle disapproval. "Can I help you?" he asked with a tone that said the opposite. "Yes," she replied with a calm smile. "I'm interested in that coupe over there." The man, Trent Bailey, sales director at Summit Prestige, motor-sarched an eyebrow. "That model starts at $300,000, he said, gesturing toward the exit with a flick of his hand. "You might be looking for our pre-owned selection. It's down the road." Laughter rippled softly from a few staff members nearby, and customers turned to look. Her cheeks grew warm, not with embarrassment, but quiet frustration. She turned and walked out without a word. The next day, just after opening, a jet-black Rolls-Royce Ghost pulled into the lot outside. The reflection of the dealership shimmered in its flawless paint. As the back door opened and a figure emerged, Trent's face drained of color. The building Summit Prestige Motors, with its silver-lettered logo, glinted in the early light, flaunting its fleet of Aston Martins, Ferraris, McLarens, and rare custom builds. Julia Hartman, known simply as Jules to those closest to her, stepped through the tall glass doors with confident ease. Her auburn hair was pulled into a neat ponytail, her jeans and pale blue tee as simple as yesterday. She wore no jewelry, no designer bag, just the same quiet certainty in her stride. At 37, Julia had the kind of calm poise that didn't beg attention. What her clothes didn't reveal was that she was the founder of the Hartman Foundation for Children with Neurological Disorders, an organization that had touched the lives of thousands across the country. Years before marrying her husband, Julia had built that foundation from scratch, pouring in her energy, her education in developmental therapy, and her soul. Her eyes found the graphite-colored coupe she'd come for, the one she knew her sister, turning 40 next month, had always dreamed of. After surviving breast cancer the previous year, Julia wanted to give her something unforgettable. Thanks to the foundation's success and her own private investments, the cost wasn't an issue, but hardly anyone knew that. On the far end of the floor, Trent straightened his tie and tugged his blazer into place. He prided himself on his ability to spot serious clients at a glance. And right now, looking at Julia's scuffed sneakers and casual shirt, he smirked and nudged one of his colleagues. "This would be interesting." "Hi there," Julia said warmly to a younger salesperson who approached her. "I was wondering if you could tell me more about that coupe over there." "Welcome to Summit Prestige Motors," the young man said cheerfully. "I'm Ethan. I'd love to help. Is there a particular model you're drawn to?" Before she could answer, Trent swept in beside them, his smile polished and thin. "I've got this, Ethan," he said smoothly. Then, turning to Julia, his expression shifted to something more patronizing. "Lost, ma'am? Looking for directions?" Julia's smile didn't waver. "I'm actually interested in that graphite coupe," she said, pointing to the $285,000 car positioned on its own platform. Trent's expression stiffened. He'd seen this before. People wandering in to gawk at cars far beyond their budget. And with month-end quotas looming and high-profile clients scheduled later, he had no time to waste. "That would be the sterling edition Veloci," he said, over-enunciating the words. "Limited production, only 12 in the country this year." His tone grew clipped. "You may want to visit our certified pre-owned branch, 3 blocks east." Julia noticed how his gaze hovered on her boots, then her worn jeans. She was used to that look, people assuming they knew her story just by the way she dressed. "I'm very interested in this one," she said kindly. "Would I be able to take a look inside?" Trent sighed. "Viewings for the Veloce are by appointment only," he said flatly, "typically reserved for established clients." Just then, a well-dressed couple walked in, the man in a tailored charcoal suit, the woman draped in designer labels. Trent's demeanor shifted in an instant. "If you'll excuse me," he said to Julia without meeting her eyes, "perhaps Ethan can get you a brochure." He strode off with a rehearsed grin. "Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, always a pleasure." Ethan looked at Julia, a little apologetic. He couldn't have been more than 24, his blazer slightly oversized. "I'm sorry about that," he said under his breath. "Would you still like to hear more about the Veloci?" "I would," Julia replied, her tone soft. As Ethan described the vehicle's specs with genuine enthusiasm, Julia caught a glimpse of Trent leading the other couple directly to the Veloci. He opened the driver's side door with exaggerated flair, inviting the woman to sit just minutes after insisting it was appointment only. "It's all right," Julia said to Ethan with a knowing smile. "I get how this place works." Across the room, Trent was mid-pitch. "This model has an exclusive waitlist," he was saying, "but I've kept one on hold for certain clients." The woman ran her fingers over the leather interior. "It's stunning. I'm just not sure about the color." "We can definitely discuss custom specs," Trent said smoothly. Julia approached, standing within earshot. "Excuse me," she said calmly. "I was hoping to discuss purchasing this model." Trent turned, his jaw clenched. "As I mentioned earlier, this vehicle is currently being shown," he said, voice tight. "Perhaps another day or again. Our pre-owned selection may better suit your needs." The couple exchanged an uncomfortable glance. "I'm particularly interested in this one," Julia said steadily. "It's for my sister's birthday." Trent stepped away from the couple, lowering his voice. "Look, I get it. People like to imagine, dream a little. But this is a business. That car costs more than many homes. I've been polite, but you're interfering with an actual sale." Around them, nearby customers had gone quiet. Ethan stood awkwardly to the side. "I'm ready to pay in full today," Julia said evenly. That was the final straw for Trent. His expression twisted into a laugh, short, sharp, and loud enough for everyone to hear. "A cash payment?" he echoed, chuckling. "Come on, this isn't a flea market. This is a $250,000 car. People who buy these," he swept a hand toward her sneakers, "don't dress like that." Julia felt the heat rise to her cheeks, not from shame, but from a deep, growing anger. Not for herself, but for everyone who'd ever been judged at first glance. "I believe my money spends the same as anyone else's," she said quietly. Trent stepped forward, towering just slightly over her. "Let me put this plainly," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "You're wasting my time. If you want to talk seriously, come back with an appointment and dressed a little more appropriately. Otherwise, I'll have to ask you to leave." The atmosphere inside the dealership turned tense. Conversations quieted. Even the Lancasters took a few steps back from the vehicle, glancing nervously at each other. "Is something going on here?" A firm but calm voice entered the fray. It was Martin Ellison, the owner of Summit Prestige Motors, drawn by the uneasy buzz across the showroom. Trent quickly straightened his blazer, forcing a professional smile. "No issue at all, sir," he replied smoothly. "I was just explaining our appointment policy to this young woman. We try to reserve time slots for qualified buyers only." Ellison's sharp gaze flicked from Trent to Julia, her jeans, her plain white shirt, the furrow of controlled emotion on her face, then to the silent crowd watching from nearby. His expression was unreadable, but there was a subtle shift in energy. "I see," he said neutrally. "Julia Hartman," she introduced herself evenly. "Ms. Hartman." Ellison gave a tight nod. "Ms. Hartman, perhaps this was just a miscommunication. Most of our clientele, well, they're aware of how exclusive our offerings are." Julia's hands were steady, but her voice held a current of humiliation just beneath its calm surface. "Oh, I understood perfectly," she said. "Your sales director made sure of that." Trent stepped forward again, his voice slipping further into arrogance. "If you're truly serious about a purchase, which I'm skeptical about, you're welcome to call and schedule an appointment. But I'd recommend coming prepared next time, with documentation, and perhaps something a bit more—" His eyes scanned her outfit again. "Appropriate." He gestured around the room. "These aren't everyday cars. They're for a very particular type of clientele." A few murmurs rippled through the other customers. Someone near the Lancasters even chuckled. Julia took it all in, the faces filled with polite judgment, Trent's smug self-assurance, and Ellison's passive tolerance of it all. She'd been judged before, but rarely so openly, so carelessly. "I understand," she said softly, her chin lifting with quiet dignity. Without another word, she turned toward the exit, holding her head high. Behind her, as the glass doors hissed open, she caught Trent muttering just loud enough for nearby ears. "Some folks just don't know their place." The words echoed in her chest, but instead of anger, something else bloomed a steady, knowing certainty. As sunlight spilled across the pavement, Julia pulled out her phone. Her pride stung. but her purpose had never been clearer. The Hartman residence sat on a secluded stretch of land outside Boulder's modern ranch-style home, surrounded by wildflowers and old cottonwood trees. Elegant, but unpretentious, just the way Sebastian Hartman preferred it. At 41, Sebastian had made his name as a quiet disruptor in the green energy space, an inventor, an investor, and a reluctant billionaire. He never craved the spotlight and had a personal dislike for waste, flash, and ego. That's what drew him to Julia in the first place. When she stepped into his office, he immediately closed his laptop. 15 years of marriage had taught him that, look, something had happened. "What's wrong?" he asked, walking over and placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Julia sank into the chair beside the window, letting out a long breath. "It was eye-opening," she said, with a dry laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. She recounted everything, the indifference, the fake politeness, the outright condescension. As she spoke, Sebastian listened intently, jaw tight but silent, allowing her words to settle. "It's not even about me," she finished. "I'll get Caroline's gift one way or another, but it hit me. How many people get treated like that and just walk away, ashamed, because they think maybe they don't belong there?" Sebastian didn't respond right away. He sat beside her, staring out the window, thoughtful. "You always think about other people," he said quietly. "Even when you've been hurt," she smiled faintly. "You wouldn't love me if I didn't." "So," he said slowly, "what do you want to do about it?" Julia hesitated. "A part of me wants to just let it go. Go somewhere else. Buy the car without the drama. But then I think of that younger salesman, Ethan, I think his name was. He treated me like a human being. And I think of every woman who's walked in there and been laughed off for wearing the wrong shoes." She looked him dead in the eye. "I don't want revenge. I want reflection. Something that makes them think twice before assuming." Sebastian gave a quiet nod, something turning over in his mind. "I might have just the idea," he said, his lips curling slightly. "Not flashy, not petty, just effective." "No buying the whole dealership," Julia warned, a playful note under her seriousness. He grinned. "Come on, I'm cliché, but not that cliché." She laughed. For the first time since that morning, it felt real. "But maybe," he continued, "we can show them something they won't forget." Over the next hour, they built the plan. It wasn't about payback. It was about perspective. About teaching people like Trent and Martin Ellison that wealth doesn't always wear a three-piece suit. That character isn't stitched into a handbag or designer heels. When they finished, Sebastian turned to her. "Want to come with me tomorrow?" Julia shook her head. "Number?" "This isn't about me watching anyone squirm. It's about shifting mindsets." Then, with a smirk, she added, "But I do want the full story when you get back." That night, while twilight wrapped itself around the house, Sebastian made the calls. Not to lawyers, not to investors, to people who could help him deliver one of life's most important lessons: never judge a book by its cover. The morning sun bathed Aspen Creek in golden light, the kind that made everything seem picture perfect. At Summit Prestige Motors, Trent Bailey strode confidently through the glass doors, adjusting his navy tie. The rhythmic click of his loafers echoed against the polished tile. Yesterday's encounter with the woman in jeans and a white tee had already become his favorite cocktail hour anecdote, a laughable story of yet another dreamer thinking she could afford luxury. He didn't even remember her name. The showroom gleamed under floor-to-ceiling windows. Every vehicle, Bentley, Ferrari, Aston Martin, was positioned with surgical precision. Trent had just finished the morning huddle. "Remember," he told his team, "qualify your leads. We're not being rude, we're being efficient." Standing quietly near the back, Ethan, the junior salesman, kept his gaze down. He hadn't laughed along the day before, Trent noticed, making a mental note to coach him later. At exactly 10:17 a.m., the deep hum of an engine drew every eye to the front. A Rolls-Royce Phantom, custom finished in obsidian blue, coasted to a silent stop. The showroom fell quiet. Even Trent felt his breath catch. "That's the Opus edition," he murmured. "Over $1 million. Martin Ellison, the dealership owner, stepped from his office. "Is that what I think it is?" Trent nodded, already walking toward the door, as a white-gloved chauffeur opened the rear. Out stepped a tall, silver-haired man in a perfectly cut suit, unmistakably powerful, effortlessly composed. His presence turned heads. "Good morning, sir." Trent Bailey, sales director. Welcome to Summit Prestige Motors. The man offered a firm handshake. Sebastian Hartman. The name stirred something in Trent's mind, but the phantom spoke for itself. We'd be honored to show you our exclusive arrivals. We just received... I'm here for a specific vehicle, Sebastian interrupted. The Sterling Coupe, midnight blue. Excellent choice. Just 15 made, Trent said, gesturing. It's right, I know where it is. My wife was here yesterday. She asked about it. Trent blinked. Your wife? Perhaps someone else? Sebastian's tone cooled. Number. You did. Her name is Julia Hartman. She wore jeans and a white t-shirt. You sent her to the used car lot. The color drained from Trent's face. Ethan let out a quiet breath. Sir, I'm sure there was some confusion. Martin stepped forward. Is there an issue, Mr. Hartman? She came here to buy the Sterling. As a gift. And she was humiliated, Sebastian replied. The room fell still. Customers paused mid-step. Employees froze. If there was any misunderstanding, Trent started. It wasn't, Ethan cut in. Mrs. Hartman was respectful. She asked about the car clearly. He dismissed her because of how she looked. Sebastian looked at Ethan with quiet appreciation, then turned to Martin. My wife runs the Hartman Foundation for Pediatric Neurocare. She's raised over $50 million for children with complex conditions. She dresses modestly because she believes in staying close to those she helps. That's who your team judged. Martin's face blanched. Mr. Hartman, this isn't how we operate. We'll make it right. Sebastian raised an eyebrow. Will you? We'll do anything, Martin said quickly. Sebastian nodded slowly. My wife wanted the Sterling. I'll still buy it. But I'm also considering a new Fleet 7 vehicles. Possibly more. But after yesterday, I'm reconsidering. Trent's jaw tightened with panic. There may be a path forward, Sebastian continued, but it'll require more than just selling cars. Tell me what you need, Martin said. The Foundation's gala is next month. We're building an adaptive sports center. Trent, I'd like you to volunteer, not as a guest, as support. Trent stared. Sir, you'll help. Set up. Work with the kids. Learn something. And, Sebastian added, your team could use unconscious bias training. I can recommend someone. Martin nodded fast. Absolutely. Sebastian turned to Ethan. You'll handle the paperwork for the Sterling. And the rest. Ethan's eyes widened. Yes, sir. As Sebastian walked past the coupe, he ran his hand along the midnight blue paint. My wife has excellent taste. Behind him, Trent remained rooted to the floor, his world spinning. For the first time, he realized he hadn't failed because he missed a sale. He'd failed because he misjudged someone who never needed to prove her worth in the first place. 1 month had passed, and the grand ballroom of the Aspen Creek Hotel had been transformed into something radiant and hopeful. The annual benefit for the Hartman Foundation for Children with Neurological Disabilities had drawn families, supporters, and donors from all walks of life. Laughter filled the space. Wheelchairs zipped past tuxedos. Kids played, while adults clinked glasses and shared stories of perseverance. Near the entryway, Trent Bailey stood in a Navy event staff vest, quite the contrast from his usual luxury suit. He was helping guide guests and gently assisting a young boy named Thomas, whose wheelchair had snagged on the edge of the red carpet. It was hard to believe how much could change in just 4 weeks. What began as a forced act of penance, volunteering to save face after a humiliating incident, had slowly become something more. Trent hadn't expected it, but spending time with these kids, seeing their daily resilience, had begun to crack something inside him. Across the room, Julia Hartman, poised and graceful in a soft blue gown, approached him. There was no malice in her eyes, only clarity. "How's the night going for you, Trent?" she asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. He looked up, serious. "Honestly, it's humbling, and long overdue." She glanced at Thomas, who had attached himself to Trent like a shadow. "He seems to have taken a liking to you." "He's trying to teach me adaptive basketball," Trent said, half smiling. "Apparently, I'm completely hopeless." Julia laughed softly. "He's not known for sugarcoating." Then Trent's tone shifted. "Mrs. Hartman, I know I've said it before officially, but I owe you a direct apology. The way I treated you that day, it was wrong, completely. There's no excuse for it." Julia didn't let him off easy. "No, there isn't," she said honestly. But the bigger question is, what have you learned? Trent exhaled slowly. That respect shouldn't be reserved for suits, titles, or bank accounts. Everyone deserves it until they give you a reason not to. Not the other way around. Those are good lessons, she replied, and I imagine they came at a cost. He nodded, his smile rueful. He couldn't forget the sale that never happened. Sebastian Hartman had purchased only one car instead of the fleet of 7 initially planned. Worth every dollar, Trent said quietly. Just then, Sebastian Hartman approached, laying a gentle hand on Julia's shoulder. Trent was just telling me about his journey, she explained. Sebastian gave him a look, not stern, not overly warm, just steady. I heard you've become something of a regular in the sports program, Trent nodded. Yes, sir. I actually signed up to stay on after my volunteer hours are done. He hesitated. And I've also been working with Mr. Ellison on retraining our approach at Summit Prestige Motors. We're scrapping the idea of qualifying by appearance. Sebastian's face remained unreadable for a moment. Then he said, That's good to hear. He paused, then surprised Trent. By the way, that corporate fleet I mentioned, we're still in the market. I was thinking, maybe you should handle the order. Ethan says you've been mentoring him closely. Trent blinked. I'd be honored, Mr. Hartman, truly. Later that evening, as the music slowed and families gathered for one last group photo, Trent watched Julia and Sebastian Hartman move through the crowd. They weren't posturing or seeking attention. They were listening to parents, kneeling beside children, offering presents, not power. Just a month ago, Trent would have dismissed someone like Julia based on a t-shirt and a pair of jeans. Now he saw it for what it was, grace, groundedness, and strength. As he helped Thomas back into his chair, the boy looked up and grinned. You know, Mr. Trenta, you're actually pretty cool for a grown-up. Trent smiled and ruffled the kid's hair gently. Coming from you, Thomas, that's about the best compliment I could get. And he meant every word. We all make snap judgments. It's part of being human. But, as Trent Bailey discovered, real character doesn't come with a price tag or a polished look. Sometimes, the people we least expect carry the most extraordinary stories. If you found this story touching, we invite you to subscribe and become part of our storytelling community. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever judged someone too quickly or been judged unfairly yourself? Your experience might offer someone else a new perspective. And remember, acts of kindness don't cost a thing, but their impact can be truly priceless.